Welcome to Everything Sports, everybody. It's Jim Williams, and Matt's on the road today, so we will not be seeing him. But we just got some very interesting news coming out, and that news just happens to be that the rosters for the World Baseball Classic have been announced. And I'll tell you what, these teams are stacked. They are absolutely stacked. There's Major League Baseball players from all 30 teams that are going to be involved in this tournament. The tournament kicks off on March 5th. Many of you may remember that in 2023, the last time that this was played, it was played with Japan beating the United States in a very, very interesting final. Let's talk about this powerhouse U.S. Team we're going to put out there. It's got a loaded roster. Of course, manager, of course, is Mark DeRosa. You got shortstop is Bobby Witt Jr. from the Royals. He's bringing that MVP caliber heat. Plus Corbin Carroll's speed from the D-backs. You got Mason Miller's unhittable 103 fastball from the A's. I mean, this kid can throw. I mean, he absolutely throws nothing but BBs. The pitching leads with Logan Webb, Joe Ryan, Garrett Whitlock. They could be very dominant. But all three of those guys throw upper 90s. They, very, very strong. Alex Bregman, Rafael Devers create third base dilemma as they did in Boston, but I think DeRosa will be able to figure it out. Both swinging, by the way, for the fences. So the squad is to depth. There's any question about it. Whether they can win the championship, that's going to be an interesting situation because the Dominican, yes, we know the Dominican is going to be loaded. That's right, baby. How about this? The Dominican has Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso. How about? I bet you didn't know that, right? Okay. They also send Trey Turner on the Mariners, contributes 16, led by Julio Rodriguez. Japan, by the way, the defending champions, features features Otani from the Dodgers, and of course Yamamoto, who's got his unhittable stuff. He's going to be back. Venezuela rolls up a deep roster with 10 players, including Tarek Skubal. I'm sorry. The Rockies have Escar Tovar on that. Basically, they've got a big mix of their 40-man roster. Other teams, hidden gems. Team Canada has Blue Jays' Bo Bichette. Puerto Rico's Nolan Arenado. Cuba, Italy pull from minor leaguers with major league upside. Guys like Great Britain and a lot of other teams are going to have some very interesting. So let's go down the teams, where they're, who's got the most on the different ones. The Mets, 17 players total. 8 of them are from the 40-man roster. Mariners have 16 players, 9 from the big league roster. Phillies, they've got 15 from the total players, 11 from the roster. 10 Rockies, 8 from the roster. Tigers with 10, Cardinals with 10, and the Marlins with about 7. Okay, well, now why does the WBC matter? Well, as we're in an Olympic situation right now, we can see that a lot of people are very excited about this type of play. World Baseball Classic has been a big success since it was started by Bud Selig. Now, the rosters can shift with injuries. We know that. But with 190 MLB veterans, the quality of play should be good. Witt highlights, Miller's got his slider. Everything's going there. Now, that post-2023 heartbreak, U.S. Stacked like never before. MLB TV and the networks cover every pitch. So if you're going to watch it, you can watch it on MLB TV. There will be clips on YouTube dropping with highlights, so not to worry about that. Predictions and must watch. Okay. USA over Japan in the final. We don't know. How about the Dominican Republic has a possible upset with Pete Alonso hitting some bombs? I think, right now, if it was me, I think Bobby Witt Jr. is a MVP possibility. Look out for Pete Alonso, the Tampa boy. He could be there too. Pool play begins with U.S. versus Mexico. That could steal the show. That's going to be on March 5th. Tune in live for that on MLB.com. And it's all the games on MLB.com are for free. So there you go on that one. So that's what we got right now on the World Baseball Classic. Let's jump over real quick for the headlines of what's going on in sports today. And of course, it's a big time Winter Olympics situation. We'll jump right in there on that right now. Let's go to our Winter Olympics update. And the Winter Olympic updates from what I'll tell you right now. It's got Alyssa Liu. She carries the hopes for the United States women in tonight's free skate final at the Olympics. That's starting in just a few minutes on NBC. So if you're watching in the United States on NBC, you can see that. You can also see it on BBC in England. So if you're watching and listening to us, then that's where you can check it out. Hillary Knights led Team USA to face tomorrow in a big showdown against Canada in the women's hockey. So it's USA and Canada for the gold tomorrow in women's hockey. Speed skater Jordan Schultz stunned in the 1500 meters. He didn't quite get there. We have Georgia facing more reckless Georgia players. Players, Colin Ingebaum, facing some arrest problems. And Kyle Busch won all time until the checkered flag dried up, and now can NASCAR. Well, I screwed that one up. Don't worry about that one, folks. Okay. I'm jumping around here to find Cowboy say hello to Christian Parker. He's going to turn around, after he has had some issues. So we're looking at that one. Keep an eye out for that. Graham grabs 22 points as number 11 Gonzaga beat San Francisco yesterday, 80-59. They seem to be right on track. They, as we talked about yesterday, they're probably a 4 seed, maybe a 3 seed if they can get there. NHL Connor McDavid is ready to take Canada's leadership mantle from the injured Sidney Crosby as they get ready for what they hope will be a showdown with the U.S. in the medal round. The Grizzlies say Morant still feeling that elbow discomfort, and Caldwell Pope will have finger surgery, so some problems if you're a Grizzly fan. Stephen Kwan will get a look in center field as Stephen Voigt reshuffles as the Guardians take a look at that outfield situation. Former manager Bob Melvin is returning to the A's as a special assistant. Orioles third baseman Jordan Westbrook physically unable to participate in spring training due to a foul ball that bounced off his left elbow. Hopefully nothing major along those lines. Let's see one other situation. What's going on here with the excuse me. Back in the Olympic situation, since we said that we wanted to make that. Ski mountaineering makes the Olympic debut, and again, that's another day for the Swiss, who do a tremendous job so far. Let's take a look at the medal count as we move forward here. Norway has 34 medals. Italy, the home country, has 26. The USA is number 3 with 25. Japan slides in there at 22, and Germany 21. So that's where we are on the middle count in the Olympics at this point in time. I'm scrolling down here to see if we can find Canadian free skater Cassie Sharp, excuse me, crashes and is had to be stretchered off after a half pipeline qualifying went bad. The two-time Olympic medalist Cassie Sharp was stretchered off by helicopter and taken to a hospital where she hopefully uh, is not badly injured. We don't know much about that right now. So by all means, check in on so many of the situations that go on via the Olympics on our News Talk and Sports Talk Florida uh, pages. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been had a little bit of a trouble here. Let's check it out here. Let's go back and see if we have anybody from X joining us. Let's see if we got anything of interest on X as we move down here. A lot of people are predicting the demise of the ACC, and frankly, folks, I don't see it. All right, now let me talk about the ACC for a minute. Let me tell you why venture capital sees the ACC as a good bet. Now, venture capital groups they don't invest in the present. Okay, let's be honest about that. What they do is they invest in the next cycle. So challenges facing the ACC do not scare them at the moment. They see the league as an unmatched academic power. Now, let me preface this by saying they do not, many in the conference believe that they're going to lose probably as many as they could lose 4, they could lose 6, but they still think that they can keep together. They're not like the Pac. I don't think they're not. They've seen what the Pac did. They saw that the Pac kind of screwed up big time by not paying attention, and I think their goal is to get that use the combination of the academics as well as the uh, sports that we like to call the Olympic sports, which is they dominate in. And frankly, I think that they can survive. I know a lot of people say otherwise, but I do think they're wrong in that case. The ACC schools attract international students at a level that only the Big Ten can match. They have run a global research partnerships that the SEC or Big 12 do not emphasize. They operate academic networks that stretch across Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The reach creates a worldwide audience that people want to stream. Okay, now I'm saying stream. You got to get to that 2036 situation so that they can move into that area. So, let's talk about that. Amazon, Apple, YouTube, and Design want content that travels. They want events that fit multiple time zones. They want schools with global alumni networks. The ACC delivers on all that. The East Coast and West Coast windows give streamers a full day schedule. The academic profile attracts high income viewers. And, as I said, many of the people who are in the Olympics today were members of teams in the ACC. So something to look forward to in that right. So let's see what would a 2036 cycle look like for them. Well, VC Capital sees the ACC as the only conference positioned to reinvent itself in the next right cycle after this 2031 cycle. So they see that they can build a hybrid model with linear partnerships and a global streaming anchor. They see the conference that can sell football and basketball, but Olympic sports as a unified digital package is really kind of their um, niche that could, again, remember, Apple, Amazon, they're looking at global. They're looking global, and they're not looking just at what is going on here in U.S. football and basketball. So that's key to them. The academic strength and coast to coast footprint pay off in a post 2036 media world. They see the ACC not as a league fighting for survival, but as a league preparing for the next sports distribution. So that I think is going to be key in that regard. Having some problems here with our buddy from the hang on. Joel Sherman for some reason showed up. Joel, thank you very much. The Big 12 offers a strong football profile, but at this point in time, the SEC dominates the ratings, as does the Big 10. The global appeal really rests right now in the ACC. And, the key, I mean, everything we're talking about here is speculation, right? We don't know. But we're saying that what we can, hey, hello, Mac. Hello, Immaculate. How are you, buddy? It's good to have you. And, my curiosity is I'm talking about the ACC here. We've had these conversations, you and I, about whether there is a future for the ACC. And I really do believe part of the reason that I believe that there is a future is because uh, the students in the ACC specifically are not, we always talk about sports being the front page, the front porch to the universities. If you look at the ACC schools, people going to AC schools, and we'll take Florida State, Clemson out of that picture, Miami maybe to an extent out of that picture, because they're likely to leave. All right, North Carolina maybe not. We don't know. We don't know if Virginia Tech might leave. We don't know if Louisville might leave. But even if they did, okay, even if they did, you would still have an amazing academic league where students go to school not for sports. I mean, that's not the reason they apply to the universities. They apply to those universities because of their academics. They do wonderfully in the Olympic sports, and the Olympic sports are very marketable in a global package. So that's what I'm saying. It's let me get if I can get you. I got my comments. There we go. Very much a future for them. Hey, you want to join me? I can hook you up and bring you on if you want to come in and chat. Be happy to have you. And I will see what you can. Sure. Okay, hang on. I'm going to send you the link. Go ahead, jump in, my friend. We're going to have a guest here in a second, and someone who we really enjoy. He's very smart and has incredibly good takes. And we'll see him here hopefully shortly. Sent him the link, and hopefully he can jump in with us. But anyway, we're talking about the ACC and the future of the ACC. Um, you can't Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, um, Duke. You've got Wake Forest. You've got. They're definitely going to add teams. There's no question about that. There we go. Welcome, buddy. It's been a while. How you been?
Good, good. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you, absolutely fantastic.
Been pretty good. Been kind of laying low, but any chance to come speak with you about this, I'll surely take that up.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. By the way, you're sitting in some very choice seats there at Fenway Park.
I know it's a good view.
Yeah, good view. Uh, be better view in about 3 months, but yeah, right now it's not bad. Um, yeah, right now I'm pretty sure that field's got a little snow on it, but we'll see. No,
Yeah.
You and I have had numerous conversations about
Yeah.
Whether or not the ACC can survive, and my point, and I'd like to hear your observation of it, is when you've got Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, Duke, Wake Forest, and they'll be adding other schools. You've got Stanford, you got Cal. Uh, they're not going to go away. It's those are universities too big not to have a place at the table. They just are.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've been saying for quite a while, like there will be an ACC. It's just going to be something different.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a seat at the A4 table, and
Yeah, and they
that's
will.
not going away. And there's for people to say, well, the others could vote them out. Big 12 would be crazy to vote out the ACC because then they're sitting there alone with the Big 10 and SEC. So they've reached their equilibrium, so to speak.
Let's be honest about something, okay?
Mhm.
And this is, and I don't want to upset my Big 12 brethren, okay?
Okay.
But they are damn lucky. If it wasn't for the ineptness of the Pac-12, where would they be?
I don't like agreeing to this, but you're not wrong. In fact, that's actually what got me into this whole thing in the beginning was the plan to basically divvy up the Big 12 between the other four conferences, and those would be the four conferences. The Pac was supposed to make it.
Yeah.
And they basically just bungled it.
Well, you know that my reporting during that entire time, I kept saying, "Look, I don't understand it. I don't understand how they can be so stupid." But at the end of the day, it just fell apart. I don't see the ACC folding like that.
No, there's just not enough spots. Um, I think personally right now I'm at the number of 7 that I think will leave.
Okay.
And they're at 18, so that leaves 11. That means you add one more, and you're at 12, and you're at every number for every single rule going on right now. It's just not going away.
I think that I've spoken to a ton of athletic directors all across the spectrum in the past months, and you know me, I'm not here I'm not promoting the ACC. I'm not promoting as I wasn't promoting the Big 12. I'm sorry, the Big Pac-12. All I was asking was, okay, how do you stay together, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's always been, all right, you take your core academics, okay? You take the groups that are there, and you say, all right, these guys, it's not, I was just mentioning before you came on, that if you go to any one of these universities, athletics, other than, again, let's mark Florida State, Clemson, to an extent, Virginia Tech, to an extent, I would say North Carolina, but we'll figure that one out. It's all academics over sports, okay?
Bigger
If you
money.
put a list of why are the students there, It's not because of of the athletics. It's just not. They go there because they're damn good schools academically. If they're good in sports, that's cool, but it doesn't resonate with the student body as it would in, say, the Big 12, the SEC, or the Big 10.
Yeah, and I think everyone wants to have that be their reality at these universities. They're all universities, and even Big 12 universities are still good. It just depends upon who you compare them to.
Right.
They're still pretty strong. But the ACC, and what I've pointed out to, and I was actually going to type you there before you invited me on, was folks need to get their minds wrapped around a conference that actually, for once, is favoring the private universities within them. And specifically in this future ACC, it'll be the elite privates.
Right.
And one thing for sports people to understand about that defines this is they have a very different view on transfers. They can never win the transfer game because they have to be more picky about who they allow in. They don't. I mean, is there some leeway given for athletes? I'm sure, but they hold them to a much higher standard academically than many public institutions do. It's just how it goes. So that's the thing to kind of remember about who is taking over the ACC, what they might have to gain from doing that, and then whom they might invite when the time comes that has a same like-mindedness.
Right. The additions are important. I've mentioned, obviously, South Florida is my school. I've mentioned them before, not because, they haven't been. I mentioned them because the athletic directors at other ACC schools have mentioned them to me. Tulane is there. That's another one. They've looked very hard and very long at adding the 2 service academies.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So if you look at all that, right?
Could I add one more to your list?
Go ahead.
Rice.
I wanted to add them, and
I got a lot of statistics to throw your way if you want to hear it.
There's a lot. It depends. I spent the last year of the Southwest Conference doing games down there. And for some reason, I seem to end up at Rice quite a bit. And that school is a beautiful school, and academically it's phenomenal.
And it's always been tiny, and it's always been basically the Hogwarts, right? Like when you go there, you get placed into a residential house, and those houses compete against each other in intramural sports. And reportedly, a lot of the students care more about that than how Rice plays against other colleges.
Right.
But they're trying to change that, and they have a plan by like 2030 something to have more than doubled their on-campus student population. So you're trying to become more like the larger ones like Stanford and Notre Dame. And I was telling folks, if you remember back, I can't remember the name of the company, but it was a company who was in talks with certain schools to give them a large amount of private capital for like infrastructure. And I said, watch Rice, watch for an announcement about stadium. And sure enough, it came out. And they're not just doing that, they're doing the whole surrounding area. It's just one of those instances where they do so much more than others that there's always generally a reason for it. And so, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, they're kind of the sleeping giant in Houston.
Yeah.
If you go to Houston and you go campus to campus, like University of Houston's campus is a lovely campus. Outstanding university, fine people. And you go to Rice, you feel like you stepped onto an Ivy League school campus.
It is pretty much. It is that. And when you look at who's probably going to be in charge of that conference going forward, I call them the triumvirate. I would say Notre Dame, Stanford, and Duke.
Yeah.
And then, going on from there. And when you look at them adding in SMU in Texas, and if you were to add one more Texas school, now you got yourself a Texas rivalry. And anyone who kind of knows anyone from Texas, if you're going to be
We already
considered
got
a Texas
SMU.
to be considered a Texas conference, though, you got to have more than one school. You got
We got SMU.
Right, exactly. So I'm saying the combination of the two then makes them a Texas.
You got a Houston, Dallas going.
Exactly. So there's a lot there, and I'm always looking for little data points to kind of show you that there may have been talks. And that Notre Dame scheduling home and away with Rice, to me, and I know you probably know this from your talks with people, those scheduling talks, when they have those, it's a good opportunity to talk about other things that you don't have to report. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I can give you the one from South Florida, because they have the same deal that Bryce does with Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of there's a lot of Notre Dame is, I think people forget, or maybe they don't know, that Notre Dame does a lot of research deals. They do a lot of alumni type situations. They're like a franchise, okay? In so much as they don't play a Rice or a South Florida without a reason.
Yes.
And usually the reason has very little to do with the football game. And so when they put these teams on there, there's a reason, because they want to be in those markets.
Correct.
They want to be in Houston. They want to be in the Tampa, St. Petersburg, I-4 corridor. Okay. And they plant a flag there. They are working with research with those universities. They have a reason why. Notre Dame does not do anything that isn't strategically good for Notre Dame.
Yeah, and it also, everything you just said, plus they like to schedule schools in locations where they get most of their students. If you do the correlation of where their students are from and where they're playing, it's pretty much in line. So, and that's always kind of in the large cities, in areas where you have a considerable Catholic population, but they don't just recruit that. But I mean, and for them to get into Houston with Rice, and for them to have made a home and away series, an even series, is pretty telling in my book. Like there's a respect there. And to kind of throw on top of that, they've also recently shown kind of similar relationship building with BYU. So that's another thing to watch.
Yeah.
But for USF, man, I think you guys are playing the game between the two, because you're going to have to decide, if the ACC feels they need another public shield, or if they just want USF for value.
Yeah.
Or, if you want to go into a conference where you may have to play by different transfer rules than what fully benefit you as a public institution in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
And that's why I say I still kind of think that when this time comes, when this movement happens, if the Big 12 gets one school from ACC, I think that they're throwing you guys an invite the exact same day. And people don't like it when I say that, but tough.
Yeah.
I don't do this just to make people agree with me.
Yeah. Brett Yormark has had conversations with South Florida, with Mike Kelly when Mike was there, and now Rob Higgins. The first, USF has decided, and they started with Mike Kelly. They didn't hire athletic directors. And I think that's where, Mike was the COO of the College Football Playoff Association. Why do you bring a Mike Kelly in?
That's a good person.
Because there's nobody in college football he doesn't know. From a standpoint of the commissioners, the presidents, the coaches, that's why you bring them in. When Mike left South Florida, and the reason Mike left was he got his dream job, which was to become the athletic director at Navy. He's a he's a DC guy. Um, you get that job, you don't want to. If that offer comes up, you're a fool not to take it. Um, and they replaced him with Rob Higgins. And what's Rob Higgins? Rob Higgins was the head of the Tampa Sports Authority. What was Rob's job? Bringing it, bringing major events, Super Bowls, CFP championship games, the Final Four in both men's and women's basketball tournaments, all these major events to town. So, what did they make him? He's not the athletic director. He's the first ever CEO of athletics in college football. Now, they got a stadium that's going to open next year
Mm-hmm.
on campus. Their basketball facility is fine. They are winning.
Yep.
So there's growth stock. And I get a lot of feedback from Memphis fans. I got no beef with Memphis, all right?
No.
No beef with Memphis. The situation is, but Memphis is past. Nobody cares now about what you did. They care about what you're doing and what your future is. And it's all like a growth stock. And that's the only reason I say is a growth stock. Now, you got to keep winning on the field for that to work, whether it's on the football field or on the basketball court. Hell, they even hired a new baseball coach. They pretty much have dumped everything in there and said, okay, look, and Will Weatherford with that, with his capital group, which is part of the group that's putting together $500 million for Brett Yormark and the Big 12. Um, do I think that he's mentioned to Brett that it might not be a bad idea to put them in there? At which point, by the way, you would get the war on I-4 back, which I think a lot of people would like to see that too. So, but
to go along with that real quick, the
Yeah,
UCF edition has not, I'm not saying it's bad, but it has not lived up to, I think, what their expectations and hopes were for it. And to your point about USF and the stock, it's of the G's, it's the highest rising growth stock. If you were to try to use that terminology for people to understand.
yeah,
And it's not that like a Memphis isn't growing, it's just not growing near the same way that USF is. So that could also help ignite their UCF edition. That's what I think is part of the greatest value for like the Big 12 is
no, I think that
getting that back together, getting that band back together.
yeah, I think that would be good because there is a definite dislike for each other.
Oh, sure.
It was kind of funny because people, from UCF are always, you know, um, uh, be bouncing on me off me about, well, we got here first. Well, how, they did, and they did, and they did what they did, and God love them. I'm not arguing that they got there first. The problem at USF was they decided, okay, we're going to sink all of our money into academics. What a foolish thing that was. So they ended up getting the AAU deal, which was good for them. And then all of a sudden they said, okay, it's time to ramp up. Do we want to go for, when Will Rutherford went in, it was Will who said, you know what, let's invest money in sports. And so when that happened, that's where they started moving on. You got Alex Goldish coming in. You had Rahim Ahim, who unfortunately passed away from a heart attack after, winning the American Conference Championship in basketball, his first season there. Then his passing 5 days before the beginning of the second season. That didn't, obviously that kind of set the team into a tailspin. Now they're back in front, in top of the American Conference in basketball as well. And we've got Coach Harlan coming in from Ohio State. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. But getting back to the ACC bit,
Mm-hmm.
I just they Tim Cook at Apple is a Duke grad. He
Is he? Okay.
He graduated from Auburn with his his BA, but he's got his master's in business from Duke, and you know, as I mentioned in numerous columns I wrote back, I mean, there's nobody who wants to be in college sports more than Apple,
Yeah.
and they desperately want it. Now, why? Okay, for a entirely different reason than some of these other streamers. They want it because they have a worldwide audience, just like just like Netflix does, just like Amazon does. But Amazon's into the major leagues. They like the major leagues. Okay. Netflix is into the big event. Everything for Netflix is like a Super Bowl, right?
Right.
They, it's all got to be that. Tim Cook is a college sports fan, but he doesn't want a piece of something. He wants control of something. And that leads me to where I was just saying
I think I know where this is going because I got a
it,
theory too, but I want to hear what you
at
have to say on this.
2036,
Mhm.
if there's still college sports in any way by 2036, there's no conference with what we have just talked about, the additions of some of these academics, that it has a better global footprint than the ACC does, with the exception probably of the Big Ten, of the conferences that are not Ivy League conferences.
Right. And that proportionally would probably be a lot of like type of people that like are subscribing to Apple
Sure,
and who they
they
want to
want
go for.
high income people.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
and there's your high income people.
Yes.
They get
And
the West Coast, including, of course, what they get Stanford and Cal,
exactly.
who pretty much, if you look at Stanford and Cal, how hell the Apple Watch, which many people own, was an incubator project at Stanford.
Mhm.
Okay, the no, different elements of Apple TV was created at Cal. So
Certainly makes sense.
there's that, right? You've got in Virginia, Northern Virginia, Amazon's Q2 headquarters, and they call it Silicon Valley East. As a matter of fact, Virginia Tech actually built a campus in Northern Virginia just to deal with Amazon. And we talked about Duke a few minutes ago and Tim Cook's relationship with Duke. If you look at the athletics in the Olympic sports, and I know that people look at it and go, they don't give a damn about it. Okay, fine, don't give a damn about it. That's okay. People, the kids that come from Europe and Asia and throughout the country, where do they play their sports? They play the Olympic sports in the United States. From track and field to, I mean, how many kids did we see in the Olympics so far who are from Stanford, who are from a number of universities that, okay, you may not be too keen on volleyball or any number of different sports. That's fine, but they are overseas and they love watching their countrymen and women participate.
And here's a little something to kind of ponder. Right? A while back, I used to think that Apple and Disney were going to merge.
Yeah.
Disney was talking about the final two candidates were either Amazon or Apple.
Right.
And then everything went quiet after Apple came onto the scene. So I can figure, okay, they're probably talking to the government. They're trying to get approval.
Mm-hmm.
And it stayed quiet for a long time. And until recently now, Disney has decided to go with the leader of the entertainment side of the parks and
Right.
has become their CEO, and they are talking about repackaging, the ESPN and all the network stuff into either a whole different company or
Yeah,
something
they're
on
going
the
to
side.
spin ESPN off.
And that's generally what you do when you're trying to create a value for something, like
Yeah.
a price. And I would have to say the number one um, target for who might want to buy that off of them would be Apple, who would give them a high price, would pay over market value. It's what if they got ABC with that, Jim?
It would be, if you look at Apple as opposed to the other streamers, Apple Apple produces all their own content.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they don't have relationships with major studios. They co-produce things with major studios, but they don't. For instance, like Netflix buys a lot of content from Warner Brothers, from a number of different uh, groups, and Sony and those, and Prime does the same thing, and Paramount, and of course, and Universal, Paramount Plus and Peacock are tied to Warner Brothers and to Universal, respectively, which doesn't keep them, by the way, from selling stuff to Prime and to Netflix. Um, it's just that I think people don't realize that right now, Apple and Amazon and Netflix and YouTube have budgets that are just dwarf the budgets of of Fox and NBC and ABC and CBS, and it's not their core business, so they can spend. You know, I'll give you an example. Um, Amazon's Amazon, uh, their content, and they call it content. They call it programming. Their content budget for this year is $17 billion.
Yeah.
Apple, people are going, well, I bet Apple's losing a lot of money in soccer. Okay, right now they're spending, excuse me, less than 2% of their sports budget on soccer.
Yeah, and if they were to pick up ESPN and bring all that content over, you can then merge in your soccer with that. Like if they purchase ESPN and ABC,
Hmm.
the ACC network is theirs. The SEC network is theirs. All this content that ESPN is just pushing on ESPN Plus, well, it also goes on Apple Plus. I mean, the size of this network becomes pretty large.
I talked to Apple representatives back back when the pack was still together. They lost SC and they lost UCLA. And they told me they begged to buy the Pac-12 network. And the Pac-12 network would the Pac didn't sell it to them. They were going to buy it. I mean, remember that belonged to the Pac. Pac-12 could have sold that anytime they wanted because it
Yeah,
belonged to them.
they still own it, and it's actually what's used for the CW broadcast.
Yeah, yeah.
CW pays them to actually.
Pays them to do it. Yeah. The whole situation is bizarre. Had they could have done a proof of concept. They could have taken that a couple of years ahead of time, streamed it, and shown that what, we can make this work.
Can I
But
get slightly conspiratorial with you?
go ahead.
Slowly. Do you know which president of which university headed the committee that was in charge for the PAC in working up their new TV deal? They were trying to work out whether it was going to be with Apple or whomever.
Was that Arizona?
It was Washington.
Oh, Washington. Okay.
And, and Washington has been on the Big Ten's radar for a long time. You look at their numbers, you look at their wealth they have there, how much property they own, their
Yeah.
rankings in research expenditures and their academic numbers. In my opinion, the Big Ten did not want to see them diminished or damaged, or end up having to go over to another conference where they would be hard to pull out of there. So that's who was heading that whole thing. And I'm not saying there was something going on there,
Yeah.
but it's just interesting to look at.
Well, there's also the situation where a lot of people thought that Phil Knight was pushing, the Oregon Washington package to the Big Ten. It wasn't. Washington led that way.
Oh yeah, I mean,
That was
Oregon was brought along
yeah.
just to get the
Oregon was a
network.
throw-in,
Yeah,
and I
just to
know
get the
that
network.
I know that people in Oregon don't want to hear that, but Oregon was a throw-in. I mean, they wanted Washington. Washington begged them, and they took them.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you, they didn't want 4 teams all at the same time.
No, and that. I mean, even after that whole thing's going on, they were still only able to get half pay out of the networks because the
Yeah.
networks were like, "This is just."
They didn't get as much money going to the Big Ten as they would have gotten going to the Big 12.
Well, yes, that's correct. I thought you were about to say for the Pac. I'd say that they're still making more because I think the Big Ten expected the Pac to be able to get a better deal than what they were able to kind of piece together for the remainders, and then they'd just come back for Washington a few years later.
Yeah, I mean,
but that didn't come about.
Yeah, and so that's why, I see all of this stuff about people going, well, the Big Ten will take 4 or 5. No, they won't. They might not take any.
In fact, I think that whole first move, the USC move, fell apart from its original. I don't know if you know, but I've had some people talk to me after the fact, after I suggested this, and I think their first pick was USC and Stanford.
It was.
And Stanford basically kind of told them something that isn't telling them to piss off, but they knew that they would get turned down on, which is we'll join in football only. Because then they don't have to join the Big Ten Academic Alliance. And Big Ten told them to kick rocks.
Yeah. So. They basically, my understanding was that Stanford said, we don't need you.
Yes, pretty much.
Thank you, but no thank you.
And most people don't understand that, Jim, because they think, why wouldn't they want to join that? And it's like, well, because research is bigger business than sports, and they want to be in with the schools that they want to be with. They don't want to be controlled by that the Big Ten consortium, they'd have to give up a lot to be part of that.
Right.
And that was meant to draw in Notre Dame, which is the final point. Like the USC Stanford was to get Notre Dame to say okay.
And that was stupid. That was a stupid thought all the way down the line.
I agree, but that's kind of what was going on. Was, hey, if we get those two, Notre Dame's going to have to say yes to us if they join a conference.
Nobody ever has to say. Notre Dame doesn't have to say yes to anybody. I mean, I've heard all this stuff about, well, if they meaning Notre Dame, well, if the ACC crumbles, then all the Olympic sports have nowhere else to go, which is they'll go back to the Big East if that were the case. Okay.
Possibly,
But here's what I've heard from ACC people thinking. The ACC people are thinking, all right, we're going to lose people. We know that. Okay. We're assuming that. They don't know.
The settlement basically assures it.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, what do? We backfill. All right. Get the basket. Again, thinking academically and growth stock wise. We'll go get the teams that make the most sense, both academically as well as geographically. And then, Notre Dame, we sit down with Notre Dame and we say, all right, let's say they add Army and Navy, right? Notre Dame plays Army and Navy every year.
Mm-hmm.
They play Stanford almost every year.
I think they do.
They have played. If you the two teams that they played the most, okay, in their history is Navy and Pitt.
Pitt's interesting though because they actually the ACC tried to get Notre Dame to sign a 6-game deal initially,
Yeah,
where they would have protected games against Boston College and Pitt, and Notre Dame said
right.
no. I mean, so like yes, there is a value there, also with Boston College, and
Yeah.
but it's just funny how Notre Dame really lets you know just how much they value you.
Well,
Because
Notre Dame, what I've been told by athletic directors in the ACC is they're willing to sit down with Notre Dame and say, "You tell us who you want to play.
sure,
We're not going to force you to play anybody you don't want to play."
and
And by the way, they signed a 30-year deal with Clemson.
yes, and see, interesting you brought that up. My opinion is that they actually want Clemson to leave.
Mhm.
Clemson wants to leave.
Yeah.
But Clemson is going to have to go to the SEC. And I think that there's a little bit of balking there on like, well, we're already in that state. So Notre Dame just threw them a bone saying, well, if you take Clemson, you're now going to get Notre Dame on your SEC schedule every other year.
Well,
Guaranteed.
ESPN will get them. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's because SEC wants ESPN to fully pay for the situation. So, that it helps juicy
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
sweeten up that deal a little bit.
But
But that's the type of game Notre Dame is playing now.
right. And they can. But the thing that intrigues me, right, about this is that the 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 SEC, at least the people I've talked to, they're not that crazy about adding Florida State. They're not that crazy about adding Clemson. They're interested mildly in adding perhaps North Carolina.
Number one on the list.
That was the one because right now, there's a buyer's remorse in the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten or the SEC?
Well, I'm starting with the Big Ten, then I'll move to the SEC.
Fair enough.
And that is why they moved to the West Coast, but that's not paying off for them. As a matter of fact, I mean, if you want to hear some real horror stories, you talk to the people who have to go and play basketball and baseball and softball and the Olympic sports going over, to the West Coast from Rutgers, from Maryland, from Penn State. I mean, it's a nightmare situation.
Yeah.
This is a disaster not waiting to happen. It has happened. So it's a mess to the point that, excuse me for just a second, we have an alarm that went off on my phone here for some reason. It's kill it. But
this sounds nice.
Stop it. Okay, skip for now. Yes. T-Mobile's being a real pain in the neck here. Hold on. Come on. There we go. There's a bit. So, in SC and UCLA are not exactly as happy as they thought they would be. Washington's not happy. Oregon's happy because they're winning. But beyond that, these travel things are just an absolute and total nightmare. So I'm not overly, I was on with the boys at 365 Sports, a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, look, more is just more sometimes. Networks do not have an infinite amount of money anymore. And, how much more money are they going to give the ACC? I mean, we'll go back to the SEC. The SEC stays within a footprint. They're not getting out of that footprint. So North Carolina becomes intriguing to them. Do they need North Carolina? They do not. Okay. And
I think it will help a lot.
I'm sorry?
I think it'll help a lot, though, because actually what SEC needs are losses. They need some teams that can lose and not be damaged by it.
Right.
So
And would they end up with? I mean, look, if Texas and Texas A&M can be in the same conference, South Carolina and Clemson can be in the same
yes,
conference,
and it
and Florida State and Florida can be in the same conference. And I heard, I somewhere about Miami to the Big 12, and that will never happen.
no, that they're with Notre Dame and Duke and Stanford.
Right. They're wherever those teams stay, they're going. Um, and so I don't. From an addition standpoint, right? The addition standpoint, I don't see either the SEC or the Big Ten going more than two, and they may not even do it. But I mean, it all depends on what the value brings. Okay, if you're talking, and again, how much more value can Clemson bring the SEC or Florida State bring the Big Ten?
Well, that's kind of part of the thing as to why Notre Dame, I think, did what they did with Clemson because it helps give them a little bit of boosted value. It
Hmm.
puts the South Carolina Clemson game as a fully
Right.
in conference game.
Sure.
I don't think SEC wants anything to do with Florida State. I don't think they want anything to do with Georgia Tech because I think what the SEC wants is for that Florida Georgia game to no longer have to be played mid-season. I think they want that to be a full-on top tier SEC rivalry game at the end of the season. So
They've
I
always wanted that.
yeah, that's why I tell people it's like I think the SEC would actually be happy if the Big Ten took Florida State and Georgia Tech because it solves that problem for them.
Yeah.
And that's why then we saw the Big Ten and the SEC talking about scheduling arrangements so that they could then, kind of protect these, and it kind of helps SEC or with the ESPN because then they don't lose those. Plus, they gain games that then also have Big Ten teams come to town.
Right.
So I think those two conferences have been working pretty close hand in hand. And I think that the conferences as a whole have wanted to get down to four conferences for a
Hmm.
while. It was supposed to be the pack to
Right.
cover all that Western stuff like you've been talking about. And the moment that was so bungled, it messed up the plans of everybody.
Yeah.
And they had to try to save some of these, major Western brands. And
Hmm.
it's not going great for now. I think it would be fine in the end once they're able to do everything they want to do. And just in the short term, it's just clunky and unfortunately not all that great. But they,
Well,
they
it's
can change.
confusing.
Well, they can change some of these rules for some of these other
Yeah.
sports with the new A4 power that they have.
Right.
So some of these other sports, they can kind of change it up to where you don't maybe that sport can then go be part of a different conference or
Yeah. I mean,
more.
they can basically do. They can also do pod situations where they can, where East doesn't play West until, in these particular situations until like um, you can win the Western Division and the Eastern Division, and the Western Division can come and play the Eastern Division in the Olympic sports to keep things more regionalized than traveling back and forth
Hmm.
the West Coast, which again people forget, and we're going to continue to pound on this. I can assure you that presidents at these universities in the Big Ten are not crazy about the amount of time that these students have to stay away from school.
I'm sure. I mean, because the more that they're away from it, the worse they're going to do at academics, and the more that the schools have to do to help them with that.
The other thing, and this is the one thing that is not being talked about, yet there is a number of lawsuits about it, is the fact that all the money that's gone to the Big Ten and the SEC, they still have pretty significant student fees that go to academic to athletics.
Yeah, and I do think that the money that they're getting is going to go up in the future. So I look at that as kind of like a tough investment period.
Hmm.
Hopefully that doesn't have to stick around, long term. And that's what I told the folks. I don't have all the answers. I know you don't have all the answers,
No.
but this is kind of a transitionary period. And when things get worked out at the end, I do think that these athletics will be making considerably more money, so that way they can hopefully then rescind those fees that they've been putting on students, because that is unfortunate.
I think what we have to look at from the network standpoint is that we're going to start seeing more and more partnerships between networks and streaming services to get to money, because the next big contract in 2028 is Major League Baseball. Um, they the NBA just cashed a 11-year, $76 billion deal. They don't have unlimited amounts of money to hand out here. Uh, so that's what I'm saying when I say how much more money are you going to get if you Florida State or a Clemson or all these these supposed teams. And believe me, I don't think if the Big 12 adds 4 or 5 more teams, I don't. You're gonna have to convince me where the hell the money's going to come for that.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at Big 12 and the ACC, you've touched upon the ACC already, where I think Apple's getting in big there.
Yeah.
However that happens, however that works out, I don't have that inside information, but I just think that's where that's going. I think the Big 12 is going to become a much bigger partner with TNT.
It could, but see, if Warner gets sold, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but whoever is doing that, they're still going to need content for it. Like
They are.
whoever owns it is still gonna. They're not just like shutting it down, so it still needs content to replace what it's lost. And so I think going college sports for them can do
but
that.
Fox right now is at 50% of their programming budget is dedicated to sports.
Yeah, I think the other 50% will be TNT. I think ESPN's getting out of the Big 12 business.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, they can't. What they want to do, which they're not going to do, is they're not going to get back in bed with the Big Ten, because the Big Ten has shut them out.
Big Ten has too many partners already. Like there's just.
Well, they got the partners they want.
Yeah, I mean, you already have those partners saying we don't quite have. I mean, they got to make those partners happy. Like you bring in ESPN in the mix too, and it just doesn't really work out.
The SEC is where the money is going to be made for ESPN.
Yeah, and if Apple comes into that, they'll also kind of boost up the ACC a bit. But in order to do that, they're going to have to cut the Big 12, and Big 12 folks ain't going to like that. But if you're partnered with Fox and TNT equally, I think you're just fine. If not better.
I'm not saying that the Big 12 is going to be poor.
No.
I'm just going to say, and I don't think that they're going to. I mean, are they going to be number 3? Yeah, they're going to be number 3. There's not, there's no way ACC is moving, ahead of them. My only argument for the ACC's, continuation is there's too many schools in there that are too big to consider them as G5 schools.
Yeah, no. I know people talk about that, and a lot of that, honestly, it comes from the folks who went through that PAC experience.
Yeah.
And for lack of a better term, there's something similar to PTSD for some of those folks. And I think some of them are just like, well, we went through it, so others are as well. And the unfortunate truth is, no, these conferences have wanted to get down to 4 for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Big 12 was supposed to get parceled out. Even their top schools wanted it. But one of the things that was a problem was the Big 10 was just not going to go for Oklahoma. And that Texas-Oklahoma game has a very specific date it has to be on.
Yeah, so, it's got to be during the fair.
Yeah. And even after Texas said no to the PAC, Oklahoma was still talking with them to go join over there, but that relationship with Texas killed that.
Well, you can thank John Skipper for giving them the big, the Longhorn network to keep them from going to the Pac-12.
That move ended up being brilliance on their part because it absolutely, even if they never made money on it, it is technically, at least indirectly, responsible for Texas now being in the SEC.
Yeah. We could talk all day about this,
Yeah,
but
you probably got a whole lot more to get to.
well, I don't anymore. We've passed our little hour time slot that we normally have, and gosh, it's been great to have you on, and it's good to chat with you again. Um, my next little bit tomorrow is going to be about the launching of the new MLB TV channels for all the 15 teams that they've onboarded now um, from what used to be, some of them used to be FanDuel, One Root TV, which is where the Mariners come from, and Masson is where the Washington Nationals come from. So half of Major League Baseball's teams are now under the control of Major League Baseball and ESPN, who will have the ability to take 30 of those games during the course of the season from those regional, I'm sorry, from those local teams and craft whatever kind of situation that they want. So Atlanta was the lone team that decided that they did not want to go to the MLB, but they would create their own network, and we'll see how that works out for them. But 15 teams are no longer with regional sports networks, and they're now under the banner. And the reason that they want that is in 2028, as I said, when we get to that point where they're going to have a contract, what Major League Baseball will then be able to do is sell local packages to the broadcast networks and to the other networks, so that they have, for instance, if you have a CBS or an NBC or an ABC or a Fox station, you'll be able to in local market perhaps air some games in that regard. So they're going to, Major League Baseball is going to upsell as much as they can. They don't. I mean, there's no way in hell they're going to get $76 billion like the NBA got. But if they can get in that $30 or $40 million or $1 billion situation, it's hard for me to even say $1 billion when I was talking about 30 or 40. But if they can get in that area, they'll be in good shape.
To finish on that, I think realignment talk is actually a pretty considerable part of Major League Baseball's strategy to do what you're saying they're trying to do. I talked a little bit about that. I don't know if you saw the talk that when they brought that up.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people are taking that seriously, but I very much take that seriously. I mean, it's something I thought that they've needed to do for a while.
They
really
do
optimize their matchups.
Yeah, I mean, it's they have to do it, and it looks like in the 2027 season they'll have plenty of time to figure things out because they won't be playing baseball. So that'll give them time to figure out what to do next, right?
I mean, I put out a little lineup of them because to me it just kind of stood out. I was like, wow, this could actually really work. I mean, they need that super division up in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
If they put that thing together, and that's taking parts from both leagues and bringing them together, that super division right there alone could possibly carry this whole deal you're talking about.
Yeah, well, and you've got a pretty good solid Southern California.
There's another good one out west too, like you're saying, and if you were to take your Midwest ones and put them all together that are split between the two leagues, I mean, it gets people interested when their local rivals that they should be rivals with, they're actually become rivals again.
Are actually rivals. Yes.
Yeah. Put White Sox and the Cubs together. Bring the Royals and the Cardinals together.
Yeah.
Bring the Twins and the Brewers together. Like, it's not even rocket science at
No.
this point in time. It's just tradition that's held it back.
Well, I mean, in the old days, wasn't that long ago. Uh, the Brewers and the Twins were rivals,
Yeah.
but they moved the Brewers back to the National League.
Yeah, and if you bring this together, it just it goes on what we were talking about a lot with college football realignment, which is it brings back local regional to the equation. I think they thought that they could just keep trying to create these long distance rivalries and they would just continue to work, and it
It
hasn't.
doesn't. No.
It
And the
doesn't.
other,
You got to have some connection to the regionality.
yeah, and the other thing too is it gives them the opportunity to add two more teams, which is what they want to do.
Yes.
And at $4 billion of franchise, they can. That wouldn't be a bad idea either.
Yeah, I definitely think Nashville gets one, but there's a pretty considerable fight for the other one.
I'll tell you what. I think I like Salt Lake City in that.
Salt Lake City has a lot of money there. I think that they really need to move more into the South where baseball is so huge. I like the Raleigh move.
Oh, okay, but I would. There's money there. There's probably more money there than there is in Nashville at this point.
Possibly,
I'm
but
talking about
baseball is so big in the South.
Yeah, I'm just saying for the specific, for that specific region, there's more money in Raleigh, Durham than there is in Nashville for baseball.
Entirely possible. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I like the Raleigh move.
Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't put him in Charlotte to save anybody's life. That's
No,
death.
you need to spread the sports out in North Carolina because North Carolina's population is spread out.
Yeah,
Like
and the Raleigh Durham thing I think is a much better fit. It's the Braves would go crazy, but the Braves are going to go crazy anyway.
Braves keep holding stuff up, thinking that they're the Southern team, and it's like you can't have one team representing the whole South where baseball is king. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
But I'm thinking from a West standpoint that the American League doesn't have a team in the Mountain time zone, and it would be great to have Utah and Salt Lake City and the whole Salt Lake City, Colorado, and I guess Vegas eventually set up there.
Oakland's pretty much going there already. Yeah,
they are, but I mean, if they ever built their damn stadium, man, that'll be.
I thought they made a deal for one. I thought I saw something where it was
it's supposed to be built, but I mean, it's on a plot of land where I can't figure out where the hell. They may have to park, in southeastern or southwest. It'd be South Central California. I mean, I'll tell you, they just don't have. They don't have.
It's been messy.
They'll figure it out.
But they will. They'll get that eventually. And
yeah,
I do think the Athletics will be there. And part of the whole idea of realignment, though, is like both leagues in that situation likely won't have a Western footprint. Like one of them will have most of the West, and then in the Midwest, and then the other one would be. That one that's carrying. I mean, if you can imagine the Mets, the Yankees, the Phillies, the Orioles, the Red Sox, all in one division together. Like that division alone probably just carries the whole deal.
Well, and then you've got LA with the two LA teams, San Diego and the Giants,
the Giants,
Arizona.
I kind of think I'd go with the Mariners, and then I'd take Arizona and move them over there with like the Texas schools in Colorado and kind of.
You could do that. You could do that.
Mountain.
Yeah, you could do that.
Me being here in Arizona, one of the things that drew me away from them was the absolute dominance of the LA fans when that team comes here. So I just think if you really want to boost that brand as much as possible, you should probably take them away from the California ones. Otherwise, it just gets squashed.
You're probably right. And it'd be fun to see how it goes. Hey, look, thanks for joining us. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you can reach out to me anytime, even
go ahead, promote your site so that people your Twitter so that people can follow you, because I'll tell you what, folks, if you follow him, you'll get smarter. I know I have.
I appreciate that. I don't do a whole lot anymore. I'm not on YouTube shows anymore.
Mhm.
for the most part. I just am on X, Twitter.
Okay.
Name is Immaculate View is the account, and it's just immaculate on there.
Mhm.
We mostly just talk college sports realignment and business. Every once in a while, I'll get into it. I kind of got into the Major League Baseball when all of a sudden realignment was there because that's intriguing.
It is.
But that's basically what we do is, when a lot gets put out through your media guys where the sources want you to put out something that gets people thinking a certain way. And so we just try to collate all of it and try to make some sense of it. And that's all.
Yeah, I know that our buddies at Front Office Sports and my
They're
old
good.
employer,
That's a good
my old
outfit.
employers at the Sports Business Journal,
Another
and
good one.
John Allred has gone over to Puck now. He's working with Varsity. I think Marchand went to the Athletic.
That's a shame.
So we it's kind of a it's become mainstream, and that's why it's fun to talk about, because you try to explain to people just a little bit as to why some of this stuff that they're talking about goes to the old baseball adage where I want to trade you one of my terrible players for one of your best players, and you're gonna make that deal, right? No, I'm not gonna make that deal. But anyway, uh, we got to get out of here, or we'll be doing a telethon very soon.
Absolutely.
But look, I greatly appreciate you joining us, and follow him, folks. Follow him. You'll enjoy it. As I said, you'll get smarter. I got smarter doing it, and we'll have to have you back when Matt's here because he would love to chat with. All right.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll work on that.
All right, buddy. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon. Tomorrow, remember, on Fridays we do noon. So tomorrow high noon Eastern time, we'll be there. Okay, take care. Hey, thanks. I greatly